Hi classmates. Uh, Tonight I'm gonna report about the meager and unimaginative character of modern city plans and artistic limitations by Camillo Sitte. So, brief introduction about the author. He was a noted Austrian architect, painter, and city planning theoretician with great influence and authority of the development of urban construction planning and regulation in Europe. So, this is him. Uh, the city planning according to artistic principles uh, is a book that he wrote back in 1889. It is mainly an urban planning theory book, but it has a deep influence in architecture as the two disciplines are deeply intertwined. And he contended that many urban planners had neglected to consider the vertical dimension of planning, instead focusing too much on paper, and that this approach hindered the efficiency of planning in an aesthetically conscious manner. So during this time, the more modern approach was being introduced. It was the grid type of city planning, and for him, he said that uh, planners during that time were forgetting about the aesthetic value of urban planning. And so, through decades of traveling across Italy, Germany, and other Central European countries, he discovered what he understood to be the epitome of city planning. So, Italian cities with Roman and medieval influences portrayed Citte's ideology, an ideology that looked at the personal experience of individuals within the spaces of the city, not of the city as a machine. So, as a planner, as an architect, he traveled all throughout Europe. And we all know naman Europe is it's an old continent, so most of the cities there are really old na. And he he was already convinced that that type of city planning, 'di ba, parang uh planning before, 'di ba, parang it was all random, it very very different from the grid. And so for him, that really influenced his ideology as a urban planner. And here he strongly criticized the prevailing emphasis in European city planning of the time on broad straight boulevards, public squares arranged primarily for the convenience of traffic, and efforts to strip major public or religious landmarks of adjoining smaller structures that were regarded as encumbering such monuments of the past. So for him, yun nga, straight streets, and parang for him, squares were made not for the public, not for the public's use, but for traffic's. I mean, for traffic. And he also proposed to follow the design objectives associated with the streets and buildings that shaped medieval cities. He advocated curving or irregular street alignments to provide ever changing vistas. So he was really against the grid layout nga, parang straight and very angular. He liked the curvy and irregular street alignments. And so one example is the Piazza del Campo in Siena in Italy. So here, public squares should be enclosed by buildings, not by streets, but by buildings. And buildings and monuments located alongside of plaza, not the center. So buildings and monuments now should surround the plaza, and plaza shape should be asymmetrical, and the center is open. Streets enter at angles. Uh, and a plaza too small does not give due effect to monumental buildings. So, if too large, even the mightiest seem dwarfed in relation to it. So, the plaza should be the right size lang. So, here is the Piazza del Campo. So, as you can see, it's an irregularly shaped plaza. And if you look at the streets itself surrounding the plaza, it's not straight. It's very curvy. And yeah, there. So here you can see it's an open space talaga. There are no monuments, no fountains, no whatever. And here, this is a case study, I think, of the piazza. So yeah, so here you can see the layout of the streets with it's really curvy. And next is one of his favorites, the Piazza del Signora in Florence in Italy. So it displays a crucial element of piazza design. Within the square, Michelangelo created the infamous statue of David, the Hubad statue. Now I think it's in Louvre. Originally planned to sit upon the cathedral, Michelangelo argued for it to be positioned in the square instead of positioning it in the center for all to experience. Michelangelo insisted for it to sit adjacent to the palazzo entrance. So again, we go back to the rules of piazza design na to not put anything in the center. And so here, by sitting the statue away from the central axis, it removes any interference with circulation and views to the entrances and buildings. And so, yeah, Sitte believed that churches within a square should sit not in isolation, rather on the contrary, as part of the perimeter. So we go back to the like he wants the squares to be surrounded by buildings. So this is the Piazza del Signora. So as you can see, the statues are on the sides, and again the buildings are on the sides also. And the space here, the open space is uh unobstructed by anything. It's open talaga. So here, this is the our picture, and here you can see the Florence cathedral, and yes, the monuments are like on the sides, and it's just open. And this is an aerial view. Again, you won't see any straight streets talaga. It's all curvy, and the plaza shape is asymmetrical. And with his reiterated reinforcing of the pedestrian's experience as the true factor of success, so he valued the experiences of the pedestrians. And for him, he stated that how the design of streets in successful precedents always revolves around that of the experience. So he said that uh, a true factor of success is when the pedestrian experience is okay. So here he emphasizes the natural growth of such squares and the passing of time as a fundamental key to generate the ideal plaza, a natural selection whereupon cities develop and through time the failing are removed and the successful remain. So just like any other old city, for him, the natural growth of a place is the ideal one. And here, irregular plazas enhance naturalness, stimulate interest, and augment the picturesque quality of the tableau. It is also much easier to locate monuments in them. Plaza groupings can create special effects that result from walking about from one plaza to another in a cleverly grouped sequence. And here he said a square should be seen as a room. It should form an enclosed space. So for him, when you're in the plaza, he wants to feel that, you know, parang he wants it homey. And here, to him, the key shift in modern city planning was from an artistic-led ideology to that of a service-led. So for him, uh, during this time, what they coined like modern, parang it was more of the functional approach na, and then the aesthetic value is neglected. So for him, the grid represented a critical failure in town planning. So he thought that the use of a grid led to inefficiency and hierarchically placed a critical element of town planning. And at the bottom is the public open space. So the grid is a service-oriented approach. It concentrates on plumbing, hygiene, and the vehicle as the important elements. So for him talaga, the grid layout doesn't give importance to pedestrians, to people. For him, the grid is more for the function nga for cars, for plumbing, and all that. And he said that the grid behaves in plan but not section. It does not deal too well with difficult topography and land formation. So we learned this during Arc the 6 that since our site back then was kind of hilly, so Miss said the grid layout talaga isn't ideal for that kind of topography. So here, it's a perfect proof that his ideals are still, are still being practiced today. And open spaces should be around the activity, next to public buildings, markets, and theaters. So people flock to activity. And for him, the grid eliminates activity. So here he said nga the artistic principles are missing. So the aesthetics uh, are neglected. Yeah, so here an example is Barcelona. Since this is in Barcelona now, so you can see the grid pattern talaga. So for him, this is a no-no for City. So yeah, there. Thanks guys. Bye.